In the quiet pre-dawn hours, when the mist still clung to the ancient stones of the White Tiger Shaolin Temple, a hush fell over the courtyard. A mysterious energy permeated the cool air, as if the night itself awaited a timeless reckoning. Master Baichun, the wise and venerable abbot of the temple, had convened his disciples to announce the impending grand tournament known as the Trial of Ascension. This event, steeped in centuries of tradition, was more than just a contest of martial prowess. It was a sacred rite to determine the future heir of the temple, a future person who would carry the legacy of honor, discipline, and spirit into the coming generations. The temple grounds buzzed with eager whispers and anticipation. Among the throng of eager students stood a young monk named Jin. Though his eyes shone with determination, there was an unmistakable shadow of sorrow in his gaze. Jin had always carried a heavy burden upon his shoulders, a burden that stemmed from a lifelong struggle with weakness. Born with a condition that rendered his left leg less vigorous than his right, he moved with a slight limp, a trait for which he was both pitied and mocked by his peers. Yet, in the face of adversity, Jin honed an inner strength that set him apart. Every day, he pushed beyond the limitations of his physical condition, training with a focus and precision that transcended the mere mechanics of movement. His discipline was born not only of necessity but also of a profound longing to honor a past cloaked in mystery. As the abbot's words resonated gently into the twilight, Jin's heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Across the courtyard, his childhood rival, Kai, exuded an air of confident superiority. Kai, known for his raw physical might and unyielding arrogance, had long believed that the title of heir to the temple was his destiny by birthright. While his strikes were powerful and his technique dazzling, his style celebrated brute strength over finesse. The stark contrast between Jin's measured determination and Kai's flamboyant aggression set the stage for a contest that promised both conflict and transformation. That very night, amidst hushed conversations echoed by the ignition of oil lamps, a dangerous rumor began to swirl among the monks. An unknown traveler had been seen, cloaked in mystery, evoking legends of a feared and forbidden art. They said that a lone Shaolin monk, battling without leaving even the slightest shadow behind, had defeated two established masters in the distant southern province. This so-called shadowless monk was spoken of in tones that blended awe with trepidation. Some whispered that his technique was not merely extraordinary, but an act of sacrilege against the temple's long-held traditions, a style that even the elders dared not mention openly. While many dismissed the tale as an exaggeration, Jin's gaze hardened with recognition, as if the fragmentary memories buried deep within had been stirred by the mere whisper of that forbidden name. At dawn, as the first light filtered over the ancient pagodas, the day of the tournament arrived. The courtyard was transformed into a battleground where fighters from various temples had gathered. Exhibits of martial arts from styles such as crane, iron skin, monkey fist, and mantis claw dazzled the spectators. The air vibrated with the clang of metal on wood, the pattering of swift footfalls, and the thuds of bodies meeting with unyielding resistance. Every movement was a testament to the years of tradition and the unspoken oath to preserve a legacy forged by the temple's ancestors. Jin stepped into the arena with a quiet resolve. His early bouts were tightly contested affairs, each move calculated with an artistry that relied on balance, timing, and precision. Unlike his rival, who unleashed a barrage of thunderous strikes, Jin's style was akin to the dance of shadows, subtle and deliberate. Each moment he fought became a poetic struggle against both physical limitation and inner turmoil. The audience could see the weight of his past in his eyes, and the pain of a forgotten secret glimmered beneath his composed exterior. In contrast, Kai strode through his matches with audacious flamboyance, dispatching his opponents with overwhelming power and leaving a trail of shattered pride in his wake. Every victory of Kai was punctuated by a sneer, a silent declaration that his strength alone was enough to secure his place as the heir. Between the bouts, in a secluded corner of the courtyard, Jin found a moment of fragile solitude. Kneeling beneath the flickering light of a solitary lantern, he allowed himself a brief respite. His eyes fixed upon the dancing flame as memories surged forth. He remembered days spent by the side of his father, a revered and formidable warrior who once held the title of the temple's greatest weapon master. His father had been a man of great passion and unmatched skill, renowned for his mastery of a secret and forbidden technique known as the Broken Shadow style. This elusive art was said to strip away the visible presence of its user, leaving their attacks like whispers in the wind, intense, precise, and nearly impossible to trace. Yet, this power came with a terrible price. It was rumored that every time it was used, the practitioner paid a dear toll, surrendering fragments of their very life. In the depths of that recollection, Jin's heart ached with the relentless pang of guilt and loss. His father's fate had been sealed by his own choice, a choice to defy the temple's sacred rules by delving into the forbidden, a path that had resulted in both awe and tragedy. Exiled by the stern command of Master Baichun and shunned by those he had once inspired, his father had disappeared into the mists of time. The memory of that day and the heartbreak of a son left to wonder about a father's abandoned dreams mingled with the pain of his own physical struggles. For Jin, every match was not just a contest of skill, but also an internal battle against a legacy haunted by forbidden ambition and silent regret. As the tournament roared on, the balance in the arena was suddenly disrupted by a presence that no one had anticipated. In the midst of the gathered crowd, a cloaked stranger emerged from the shadows. His appearance was unsettling, a figure so enigmatic in both form and stance that his very presence seemed to distort the beam of light around him. When the torchlight touched him, it revealed an impossible anomaly. Behind his form, no shadow was cast. The onlookers stood frozen, as though time had slowed to bear witness to this spectral return. The stranger moved with an uncanny fluidity, each strike executed as though it were choreographed by the unseen forces of destiny. In a single swift movement that defied expectation, he demanded the presence of Kai, announcing his orders with a forceful, unspoken command that shook the core of every witness present. Despite the abbot's initial refusal to comply with this unearthly edict, the situation deteriorated into chaos. In a display of power both terrifying and silent, the cloaked figure dispatched several of the temple's masters with strikes that left them crumpled on the stone floor before any of them could fully comprehend what had happened. Kai, his pride already bruised by the earlier bouts, felt the bitter sting of fear as one powerful blow shattered his arm. The mighty warrior, once so confident in his superiority, now lay broken and humiliated before his peers. Amidst the pandemonium, the mysterious stranger melted into the darkness without a trace, leaving behind only a trail of incredulous whispers and a sense of profound loss of control. In the ensuing silence, the abbot's steely gaze fell upon Jin. With a voice laden with unspoken expectations, Master Baichun demanded an explanation, a confirmation that Jin recognized the stranger's identity. In that charged moment, with eyes glistening under the weight of his memories, Jin could no longer conceal the truth hidden beneath his calm exterior. In the stillness of the temple courtyard, it emerged like the faint hues of dawn. The shadowless monk was none other than his own long-absent father. The revelation sent tremors of shock through every heart present. The abbot, with the wisdom of years etched into every line of his face, began to recount the real story, a story that had been buried beneath layers of tradition and misinterpretation. Jin's father, the once vaunted master of the broken shadow style, had not been cast out for hubris or cruelty, but rather for the inescapable truth that his forbidden art was both a gift and a curse. Each time the style was invoked, it siphoned away precious moments of the practitioner's life, draining the vitality that was so essential to both life and spirit. The temple had exiled him not out of disdain for his abilities, but out of desperation to save him from the inexorable decay that his powers inflicted upon his soul. For Jin, this revelation was both a relief and a corrosive burden, a bittersweet legacy of love, sacrifice, and the heart-wrenching cost of transcendence. Night descended once more upon the ancient temple, and the dark hours ushered in a final chapter filled with intense emotion and inevitable confrontation. At the stroke of midnight, as the moon cast a silvery glow on the weathered stone structures, Jin's past and present converged in a poignant moment of reckoning. The spectral figure of his father reappeared in the courtyard, not as a harbinger of mere destruction, but with burning eyes filled with cruelty and the desire for retribution against the very institution that had forsaken him. It was as though the temple, with all its storied history and boundless traditions, had finally become the stage for a tragic reunion that words could scarcely capture. With a heart torn between duty and affection, Jin stood trembling before the man who had once been his hero and who now embodied the dangerous consequences of forbidden ambition. In that charged silence, Jin's inner voice erupted with a mixture of anguish and resolve. He realized that in order to save the temple, and perhaps even his father, from the endless cycle of vengeance and suffering, he had to step forward and embrace the destiny that had been interwoven into his blood. Summoning every ounce of strength and channeling his personal struggles into a singular focus, Jin prepared to meet his father in combat. However, this was not a clash of simple physical might. It was an intricate ballet of spirit, of legacy, and of emotion. Every movement was weighed with memories of pain, every strike charged with the hope of reconciliation. Though his left leg bore the physical scars of his lifelong struggle, Jin's determination had forged a new path, a unique fighting method that transcended his original limitations. This innovative discipline, which he had begun to call the balancing shadow style, transformed every perceived weakness into a source of strength, a perpetual reminder that adversity could be turned into a stepping stone toward greatness. As the duel ignited beneath the cool luminescence of the moon, the courtyard became an arena not solely for physical combat but for the ultimate test of character. Jin advanced with deliberate caution, each step measured and every gesture imbued with the lessons of both triumph and failure from days gone by. His strikes were accompanied by an acute awareness of sound and rhythm. He tapped the ground with measured precision, using the resonant echoes to guide his senses in the absence of a visible shadow from his elusive opponent. In contrast, the cloaked figure, Jin's father, moved like a phantom embraced by the night, intermittently visible under the shifting glow of the torches. His every movement was a stark reminder of the formidable broken shadow style, a technique that had once instilled reverence and terror alike. The clash between father and son transcended the superficial boundaries of a mere martial contest. It became a poignant duel between remorse and redemption, between the chains of the past and the promise of a new future. Throughout the long, arduous confrontation, each strike that Jin delivered was laden with the weight of both physical torment and the sorrow of a legacy marred by sacrifice. Even as his body bore the toll of relentless combat, his spirit remained unyielding, driven by an unspoken love and a need for absolution. Slowly, methodically, Jin found a way to counter the ghost-like maneuvers of his father. In a breathtaking moment that seemed to suspend time, he caught sight of a fleeting flicker, a delicate shadow that appeared beneath their entwined feet. It was a sign that the forbidden art, so long believed to obliterate every trace of the practitioner's presence, had left behind a final echo of humanity. This fragile glimmer of light became a symbol of hope, a sign that even in the depths of forsaken power, the bonds of love and memory could still endure. In that transcendent instant, as Jin's heart overpowered the ceaseless tide of sorrow, he understood that his struggle was not one of conquest alone. It was a battle fought for the integrity of the temple, for the honor of tradition, and most of all, for the salvation of a father tormented by his own guilt. As the duel reached its crescendo, the air itself seemed to vibrate with the intensity of unvoiced emotions, the fierce pain of regret, the tender warmth of filial love, and the unwavering resolve of a son determined to redeem a broken legacy. In a final, graceful maneuver, Jin's outstretched hand met his father's wrist, forging a connection that went beyond conflict and anger. With this touch, the long-lost warmth of family and forgiveness surged forth, a radiant acknowledgement that transcended the physical fray. The encounter ended not with the triumphant clamor of victory over an adversary, but with a soft, heartrending exhalation of mutual surrender. His father, overcome by the inexorable toll of the forbidden technique and the undeniable force of his son's love, sank to the weathered stone in peaceful resignation. In that poignant silence, the ancient courtyard was transformed into a sanctified space where grievances were laid to rest and new beginnings took root. The old warrior's essence, his pride and pain, was gently consigned to the annals of history as he quietly receded into the embrace of the night. In those final moments, both father and son found solace in the shared understanding that true strength emerged not from the relentless pursuit of victory, but from the capacity to accept one's vulnerabilities and to transform them into the foundation of hope. As the temple's eternal rhythm resumed its steady cadence at the break of dawn, the remnants of the night's turmoil lingered like a soft echo among the venerable stone arches. Kai, humbled by the humbling cascade of defeats and unexpected insights, knelt in a gesture of sincere contrition. His pride lay shattered at the feet of Jin, whose own journey of inner transformation had transcended the superficial allure of power and recognition. Rather than bask in the glory that might have come from claiming the title of heir, Jin chose another path. A path that reaffirmed the sacred values of unity, compassion, and the courage to face one's own flaws. With a quiet grace that acknowledged both the triumph and the tragedy of the evening, he declined the pursuit of personal accolades, proposing instead a bold vision for the future of the temple. Jin's steadfast belief was that every student, regardless of the imperfections they might carry, held within them the potential for greatness. In his eyes, the legacy of Shaolin was not to be preserved by clinging to long-forgotten rules or venerating unattainable perfection, but rather by nurturing the innate strength that comes from overcoming one's own limitations. Thus, with gentle determination, he symbolically declined the throne that had been offered, opting instead to embrace a new era where the forbidden would no longer reign, where the past did not dictate the future. The venerable abbot, recognizing the sincerity and transformative power behind Jin's resolve, ceremoniously placed the sacred sash upon his shoulders. This act, both solemn and hopeful, signaled the dawning of a renewed spirit within the temple, a spirit born from the realization that true martial excellence and wisdom were not woven from the threads of invincibility, but from the tapestry of resilience and redemption. As the gentle light of a new day spread across the aged stones, the legacy of the temple was irrevocably rewritten. The night's events, fraught with heartache and the profound weight of lost years, had given way to a future that promised renewal. Within the souls of the disciples, an enduring conviction took root, a belief that even when one is shattered by the burdens of the past, the fragments can be reassembled into something infinitely more beautiful and resilient. The echoes of a forbidden art, once thought to be a curse, now served as a timeless reminder that every mark of pain could ultimately blossom into strength. In the lingering silence of the morning, the temple's ancient walls seemed to whisper a simple yet resonant truth. We are strongest where we were once broken. In that hallowed space, where tradition met transformation, the legacy of the broken shadow gave way to the radiant promise of forgiveness and newfound courage. The past, scarred and bittersweet, was honored not for its flawless triumphs, but for the lessons it bestowed upon those who dared to rise again. And so, as the temple prepared to greet another day, the story of Jin and his father endured, a story that would continue to inspire all who sought to turn their own fragility into a force for lasting change and eternal hope. In the end, the events of that fateful night transcended the boundaries of mortal combat, leaving behind an indelible imprint on the hearts of all who had witnessed them. The temple was no longer merely a bastion of ancient tradition, but a living testament to the enduring power of love, redemption, and the courage to transform one's own imperfections into something extraordinary. The promise of a new era was sealed under the gentle caress of a rising sun, a silent proclamation that the future belonged not to those who clung to unforgiving rules or to a narrow conception of perfection, but to every soul brave enough to face the shadows and emerge reborn. Thus, the legend of the forbidden style and the mysterious journey of the last monk of the broken shadow was etched into the sacred annals of Shaolin. In that elegant confluence of history and destiny, the temple and its people embraced the wisdom that every heartbeat, every sacrifice, and every struggle held within it the potential to spark a radiant new beginning. And so, as the ancient corridors of the temple began to stir with the promise of life anew, the profound message resonated like a timeless mantra, a reminder that even amidst the darkest night, the light of the human spirit could shine with unyielding brilliance, illuminating a path toward healing, understanding, and peace. Every step taken that day carried the scent of incense and the soft murmur of ancient prayers, binding the future of the temple with the eternal lessons of the past. In the graceful interplay of light and shadow, the valor of a son who refused to be defined by his faults, and the ultimate redemption of a father once lost to forbidden ambition, a legacy of immeasurable depth and tenderness was born. The legacy was not inscribed on cold stone, but lived on in each heart that beat with the desire to transform pain into purpose, reminding all that even the faintest flicker of hope can set the entire world aglow. And so, the grand tapestry of life continued to unfold within the ancient walls of White Tiger Shaolin Temple, where every whisper of wind, every ripple of water, and every fleeting shadow served as a gentle reminder that within each soul lies the power to rise above the past, to embrace the beauty of imperfection and forge a future that is as enduring as it is compassionate. The forbidden style had, in its time, cast a long and haunting shadow over the annals of history. Yet, through the courage and resilience of those who dared to face both the light and the darkness, a new chapter was written. A chapter where every scar told a story of endurance, every broken piece found its place among the mosaic of life, and every heart learned that true strength lies not in the denial of our frailties, but in their eventual transformation into the brilliance of undying hope. In the soft glow of the early morning, the temple continued its silent vigil over the lives of those who had once been broken, and now, reborn. With each step into the future, the disciples carried forward the timeless wisdom that had emerged from the crucible of forbidden power, and with each breath, they honored the truth that the essence of life was woven from both shadow and light, a truth that would guide them forever in their quest for balance, honor, and profound inner peace. The forbidden style had, in its time, cast a long and haunting shadow over the annals of history. Yet, through the courage and resilience of those who dared to face both the light and the darkness, a new chapter was written. A chapter where every scar told a story of endurance, every broken piece found its place among the mosaic of life, and every heart learned that true strength lies not in the denial of our frailties, but in their eventual transformation into the brilliance of undying hope. In the soft glow of the early morning, the temple continued its silent vigil over the lives of those who had once been broken, and now, reborn. With each step into the future, the disciples carried forward the timeless wisdom that had emerged from the crucible of forbidden power, and with each breath, they honored the truth that the essence of life was woven from both shadow and light, a truth that would guide them forever in their quest for balance, honor, and profound inner peace.